Thank you to today's sponsor, Science on Call, 24/7 technical support for all your restaurant needs. In this troubled world where some international fast food chains refuse to serve pizza, it is good to know there are many restaurateurs who are actually interested in pleasing their customers. Perhaps food explorers have uncovered a never-before-used pizza topping. Science on Call's team of helpful humans and hyper-intelligent robots will seamlessly add this topping to your ordering systems with just a QR code scan, a quick text message, or a tap of an app. Visit scienceoncall.com/pizza and book a demonstration today. Welcome to Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's, the investigative journalism program, or IJP, where I ask the question, whatever happened to the pizza at McDonald's? A proud part of the Panoply Network, a wholly owned subsidiary of Pizzaply Media. I'm your host, Brian Thompson, investigative journalist. If you follow me on social media, such as Twitter.com, Instagram.com, or other platforms that are restricted to only fans, you are aware that last week I had occasion to visit the ABC Television Center on the Upper West Side of the island of Manhattan Island to attend a broadcast of the daytime talk show entitled The View. Many years ago, The View was created by one of my journalism mentors, Ms. Barbara Walters, as an alternative to less informational daytime television programming, such as The Jerry Springer Show, Judge Judy, Judge Mathis, Judge Steve Harvey, Judge Faith, Judge Joe Brown, Judge Jerry, The People's Court, Lauren Lake's Paternity Court, Couples Court with the Cutlers, Family Court with Judge Penny, and Gary Busey, Pet Judge. Rather than sitting in judgment of humans and or pets, Ms. Walters and her friends on The View would sit around a table educating the public about which hot topics they considered the hottest of the day. As one might expect from such a long-running program, the specifics of the show have evolved over the years. Most notably, the cast of co-hosts has varied quite a bit, at one point or another including just about every notable woman from the media world who does not have any other professional commitments Monday through Friday from 8 a.m. to 12:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. In fact, even the show's creator herself, Ms. Barbara Walters, is no longer on the program, due in part because she has passed away to heaven. But the format is still the same. As of this writing, the cast includes comedian Joy Behar, journalist colleague Sarah Haynes, former Trump administration collaborator Alyssa Farah, political strategist Anna Navarro, and lawyer and journalist colleague Sunny Hostin, who quite frankly should consider changing her name to Sunny Co-Hostin, as she is currently co-hosting The View. Also, one of the current co-hosts is Academy Award-winning actress and comedian Whoopi Goldberg, to whom I will be issuing a sincere and legally exonerating apology later on in this program. Suffice it to say, The View is one of the most prestigious television shows on American television, perhaps in its societal impact second only to the WWE's Monday Night Raw. So you can imagine how honored I felt when last week I received an electronic mail in my electronic mailbox inviting me to appear as a guest on the Friday, February 2nd, 2024 episode. It was deeply humbling to be thought so important and wonderful, and I wasted no time in RSVPing, almost immediately after I finished eating the sandwich I was consuming for lunch, which, not that it is anyone's business, was a Monte Cristo. This, of course, is not the first time I have been invited as a guest on a major television program. I have also been asked to appear on Anderson Cooper 360, Real Time with Bill Maher, Journalists in Cars Getting Coffee, and Love on the Spectrum, among many others. None of these requests have ever been fulfilled, owing either to scheduling conflicts or the invites getting lost in my spam folder. However, none of these invitations have meant as much as my invitation to appear on The View. I consider Anderson Cooper to be a colleague and, in some ways, a friend, but he is not a mentor like Barbara Walters. And even though she is currently not a cast member and is instead supping at the right hand of the Lord, I was looking forward to gracing the halls of her creation. It is regarding this topic of the halls that perhaps I should have first suspected something about this event was rather askew. I will not reveal the exact route I took from my headquarters/apartment to the ABC television center, lest any assassins try and create a map of my travel habits. But, in vague terms, I took a pleasant stroll through one of New York City's most central parks to the Upper West Side. Though I have now lived in the city almost several months, and therefore legally qualify as a full-fledged New Yorkie, I still take delight in passing some of the area's most famous sights. I smiled at a young boy tossing a penny into the fountain at Bethesda Terrace. I grinned at a Wall Street businessman hastily consuming a hot dog on his way to work. And when I passed the Dakota Building, I could not help but smirk at the throngs of tourists lined up to be photographed lying splayed on the sidewalk where John Lennon was shot. However, my smirk was quickly erased upon stepping through the 64th Street entrance to The View's studio. Though the walls of the hallways were plastered with cheap, faux canvas prints of the program's current cast members, there was not a single acknowledgement of the great Barbara Walters. I did not expect a life-sized statue, as such a thing would surely make the famously humble journalist metaphorically roll over in her literal urn. But, at the very least, I expected an original oil painting of Miss Walters, mounted in a gilded frame and covered in whatever kind of soupiophobic covering is used for priceless works of art in danger of having soup thrown on them by climate activists. The second and almost as disappointing revelation of the morning came when I asked a security guard to direct me to the guest green room. I was not surprised when this guard asked me who I was. Elite security officials must keep all of their senses in unobstructed order on productions such as these that play host to top-tier celebrities. It would be quite a metaphorical egg on a guard's literal face were he to be distracted with an earbud full of investigative journalism program as a climate activist frustrated not to find an oil painting of Barbara Walters or to fling their soup at Joy Behar. I politely explained that I am the investigative journalist Brian Thompson, and handed over my journalist's ID card, a lesser version of which is Xeroxable in all copies of my best-selling book, How to Be an Investigative Journalist. I also showed my electronic mail invitation on my telephone, which is really tantamount to a pocket computer. The guard informed me that this invitation was not an invitation to appear as a guest on The View, but was instead an invitation to appear in the studio audience. When I removed my prescription glasses and squinted at the screen, my mistake became obvious. Some time ago, shortly after moving to New York City, which we New Yorkies simply call the city, I found myself walking around the Upper West Side after lying down on the sidewalk outside the Dakota Building where John Lennon was shot. As I had no companion to take a photograph of me, I had to wait there for quite some time in a state of faux deceasement until a passing tourist agreed to snap my picture. Consequently, I worked up quite a fullness in my bladder. I saw the nearby entrance to the View's studio in the ABC television center and went on my pocket computer to request audience tickets, thinking there would probably be a very clean bathroom inside if its toilets had to play host to the likes of the View's cast. Though my request was denied, I was thanked sincerely by the ticketing service's automated response robot and assured that I would be put on a wait list for future ticket availability. Quite frankly, I did not pay careful attention to every detail of this message due to the aforementioned bladder situation I mentioned afore. Thankfully, there was a resident of the Dakota Building who noticed the way I was hopping up and down and grimacing on the sidewalk, and she invited me inside to use her restroom facilities. I would thank her by name, but I am afraid I do not remember it. Something like Toto Phono. I must have mistaken my waitlist ticket for an invitation to appear as a guest on The View. To plan my next steps, I retired to the studio bathroom, and while relieving myself, I had the idea to turn this figurative lemon into the proverbial lemonade. I would humble myself even further than I was humbled when I initially thought I had received an invitation to be a guest, and agree to succumb to my fate as a lowly audience member. It is a dangerous world these days, and the imagination reels thinking of the raw number of fatal accidents that might befall whoever was actually booked as that day's guest. Perhaps in such an unfortunate instance, I could rise to the occasion by literally rising from my seat in the audience and transplanting my hindquarters to one of the upholstered bar stools arranged among the ladies on stage. It was while waiting in line with the rabble of my fellow audience members that I spotted Miss Whoopi Goldberg herself walking down the hall. Out of all the View co-hosts, Miss Goldberg is perhaps the most notable, at least to me. While I do not consider her a mentor, as to my knowledge she has never done any journalism, investigative or otherwise, I am very much an admirer. I found myself in complete agreement with the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences when they nominated her for Best Actress for her stirring performance as Celie in The Color Purple. And I found myself in complete agreement once again when they decided she did not deserve an award for that performance, but instead for her turn as a lovable necromancer in the film Ghost, a film which is so scary I have never managed to stay awake through the whole thing. But speaking personally on the behalf of my individual person, I would say my favorite role of Miss Goldberg's is that of the immortal bartender Guinan on one of my favorite television programs, Star Trek Generation 2. In fact, it was my affinity for this particular work that I thought might make for an effective metaphorical icebreaker. My plan was thus. I would introduce myself to Ms. Goldberg with the ultimate goal of planting the notion in her mind that I might make for a very interesting The View guest either during a future broadcast or as a last-minute replacement for whatever person was originally scheduled to be on that day's show, but was now, sadly, a corpse. And I would immediately ingratiate myself by mentioning my admiration not for one of her more popular bourgeois roles, but for her part in Star Trek, a television program only watched by the few people intelligent enough to understand the science behind why shapeshifters must sleep in buckets. Unfortunately, I was not the only one who decided to seize this opportunity and place themselves into Miss Goldberg's path. Several other of my audience mates broke free of our corral and stampeded toward her at the same time, dull accolades for common entertainments such as Sister Act and Sister Act 2 Back in the Habit, ready to ejaculate from their glossy lips. Even if one were to review the security camera footage, one would be hard-pressed to determine who was the first to shove another out of the way as we approached Miss Goldberg. Let us just say that some shoving ensued, and leave the question of who shoved first to God and his angels. Regardless, when I engaged in behavior no more antisocial or indeed criminal than any of my fellow audience members, and pushed against someone with both hands in a direction that happened to be the opposite direction of Ms. Goldberg, I fell victim to two immutable phenomena. 1. Sir Isaac Newton's third law of motion, which states that for every action in nature there is an equal and opposite reaction. In this case, my action of pushing against someone in a direction counter to the direction of Ms. Goldberg resulted in the opposite reaction of my bodily person being thrust straight at the great Star Trek star herself. 2. I also fell victim to the law of men's rooms, which states that on the floor beneath every urinal is a puddle of human waste that many men are either unable or unwilling to direct into the wall-mounted commode. Consequently, the bottoms of my sneakers were somewhat caked in a slick yellow lubricant that sent me sliding across the floor at tremendous speed, directly into the path of one-time Academy Award winner, two-time Academy Award nominee, and four-time Academy Award host, Ms. Karen Elaine Johnson, known professionally as Miss Whoopi Goldberg. As we collided, I am embarrassed to say my human instinct to protect myself from falling to the floor kicked in, causing my hands to grasp at whatever purchase I thought might keep me from imminent collapse, including Miss Goldberg's shoulders, wrists, waist, and yes, breasts. This clutching was, of course, mutual, as both of us, despite our imbalance of Academy Awards, are only human. In fact, I could not help but notice as Ms. Goldberg clawed at me on our way down that her fingers were hooked in a way that resembled the hex-like motion she made with her hands as Guinan upon encountering the omnipotent imp Q in the Star Trek episode Q Who. I started to say as much in an attempt to assuage some of the awkwardness of this encounter, but before I could utter a word, the breath was kicked out of me by the boot of the very security guard to whom I had shown my journalist's ID. I forgave this assault upon the Fourth Estate as simply the instinctual reaction of a trained celebrity protector. And thankfully, Miss Goldberg extended some forgiveness to me as well. Perhaps as a famous actor, she has endured this kind of incident numerous times before. Or perhaps she recognized me as the Pulitzer Prize-winning host and producer of Whatever Happened to Pizza at McDonald's. Whichever the case, she instructed that I not be placed into police custody and instead simply be thrown sideways out the door of the studio and onto the sidewalk like a drunkard from a Dickensian tavern. However, I am sad to say that Miss Goldberg was unable to appear on that day's broadcast of The View, as, owing to the impact of our collision and the smear of yellow streaking the floor nearby, she was taken to the hospital to check for possible internal bleeding and or infection of urine-borne disease such as typhoid, etc. But even though the lack of any updates on TMZ leads me to believe Ms. Goldberg is in fine health, and even though I have not received any kind of legal summons regarding the matter, I would like to extend my deepest apologies to Ms. Goldberg for any pain or inconvenience I have caused. And I would like to assure her and all who make booking decisions at The View that my schedule, while full, is quite flexible. In the meantime, I have decided to make my feelings official by sending Ms. Goldberg an apology gift. My idea is that it will be a pizza of top New York quality, with pepperonis arranged in such a way that they spell the following message. To Ms. Whoopi Goldberg, a.k.a. Guinan from Star Trek, I am sorry about what happened. Sincerely, Brian Thompson, journalist. And then, of course, several smaller pepperonis would spell out my telephone number in case she or one of her producers would like to contact me. Finally, I would also like this pizza to be delivered along with a note stating that it is not to be consumed by Ms. Behar, Ms. Navarro, Ms. Haynes, Ms. Farah, or Ms. Co-Hostin, as it is for Whoopi and not for them. Now, is it possible to have something like that delivered to the ABC Television Center care of The View?
An arrangement, you said?
An apology pizza? Could I just send a pizza?
Pizza?
Yes, please.
We only do arrangements.
Oh.
You're calling edible arrangements.
Okay, I understand this is edible arrangements. I just thought it was pretty much anything edible. If it has to be in an arrangement, can it just be an arrangement of pizza slices, I guess?
Oh, no, it's only whatever's on our website that we offer.
Okay. Well, I'm not logged on right now, but do you have anything with tomato sauce on it, or cheese, or crust?
No, we only have fruit and chocolate.
Oh, fruit. Well, I don't know if Whoopi has any fruit allergies. I will do some more research and I will get back to you. Thank you very much.
No problem.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.
Goodbye. Do you know what happened to pizza at McDonald's? Do you remember it? Please send all correspondence to pizzaatmcdonalds@gmail.com. To support the show, please join my Patreon at patreon.com/pizzaatmcds for exclusive benefits. And for more information, including links to social media, merchandise opportunities, etc., visit pizzaatmcdonalds.com. Thank you to my invaluable Patreon producers: Bipolar Biped, Grant Bacon, Jacob Ford, Joe Kajik, Kimberly King, Andy McH, Kyle Turok, Pam Gabriel, Polly Egan, Thomas Young, Trisha Yates, Will, Adam Crump, Andrew Duffy, Andrew Ahmed Rubin, Billie Jean, Brad Allen Thompson, Creighton Barrow, Dan Dreyer, Jeffrey Francis Sylvia, Jay Poop, Calvin Thomas, Laurel Paul, Opus Moreski, Paul Fu, and Ryan Guggenmoss. I'm Brian Thompson, investigative journalist.